let's take a look now at the column or the bar chart. Continuing with our example of the bank manager, one of the things as we're creating these graphs and charts that I definitely want you to think about is that there's never or rarely one chart or graph that shows you the entire picture. So digging into our data a little bit more, let's take a look at our scenario and let's assume that the bank manager is now considering the differences based off of days of the week. So we've got data that looks at the number of customers and the number of complaints based off of each day of the week. So we want to look to see if there's really a difference if complaints are higher one day of the week than another day of the week. Also, if the number of customers might be different one day of the week. So we can create a bar chart that will show us that information. In this case, I'm going to select cell A6 through cell C12, select the Insert tab at the top, and then I'm going to go ahead and select Recommended Charts. But again, I know I'm going to want to look at a bar chart because in this case, I'm really trying to understand the difference in the magnitudes of each day. And the bar chart is a great way of graphically showing the difference in the magnitudes. With my recommended charts, these are not always the best options. So for example, the first one that shows up is a line chart. While we are looking at data over time based on days of the week, we don't really want to look at it as a contiguous relationship because Monday, there's set hours at the bank, Tuesday it's set hours, and so it's not really showing us the difference in the magnitude. So this is where our column or our bar chart is really great at this. And in this case, I'm going to select the clustered column because I can look at my data based on the number of customers and then the number of complaints per day. So this is going to show me a better representation of the magnitude with relationship between those two different data points that I'm collecting per day. So I'll select OK, and then I'm just selecting my chart and dragging it down so it's not covering up my information. Now in this case, since I did select what was in row 6, it is giving me my legend that shows me the blue is number of customers, the orange is number of complaints. However, I don't have a chart title that's really representative. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and change the title to something more representative, such as number of customers and complaints per day. And again, we want to make sure it's representative. We also want something that's a fairly short title so that people can read it, understand what the chart's showing pretty quickly, and then look more specifically at the data. As I mentioned, we already have the legend with the number of customers and the number of complaints. And this is giving us great information in terms of both. However, we don't necessarily know what this information is to the left of our graph. So I am going to go ahead and select Add Chart Element, an Axis Title, and add a primary vertical, and then select this information, and I'll call it Frequency, or I could call it Count. But I want to make sure it's clear that it's not something that's a specific unit. So in this case, I can use then my clustered column chart to really look at the magnitude of what's happening. So taking a step back initially, what I can see is the customers vary quite a bit based on the day of the week. Most of the customers, or the highest number of customers, are coming to the bank on Monday, and then during midweek, the number of customers visiting the bank per day goes down. And Wednesday, the least number of customers come in. Then I can also look at the magnitude based on the number of complaints versus the number of customers that are visiting. So one thing I'm hoping you're noticing as I move my cursor around, when I hover over any of these bars, you can see the value for each one, which also gives me quite a bit of great information. In some instances, like this one with 150, it's right at that bar. However, when I look at Wednesday, it's somewhere in between, and eyeballing it, it looked like it was pretty close to right in the middle, but this gives me more specific information when I hover over that bar. So when I look at Wednesday, while it's the least number of customers, the ratio to the number of complaints looks like it's also very small. Whereas everything else looks fairly consistent, I can compare Monday to Friday. Friday, it looks like the number of complaints is slightly larger than Monday. However, there's less customers on Friday. So that also starts to show that maybe Fridays is a little bit more of an issue because my ratio of complaints to number of customers is probably higher. So the great thing about using the clustered bar chart is that I can get a lot of information based on the trends of what's happening per day that graphically I can see very easily, and I can use this information then to start drawing conclusions about what changes I need to make to my business to help increase customer satisfaction.